The screenshot glows on my phone screen like evidence of a murder I haven't reported yet. My hands won't stop shaking as I read the messages between him and Mom for the 5th time. Each word another nail in the coffin of everything I believed was real. I found them by accident, really. That's the part that makes my stomach turn. I wasn't even looking for betrayal. His phone had buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower, and I'd picked it up to bring it to him, thinking it might be important. The notification preview showed a message from Mom that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby." His mother had been dead for 3 years. The discovery hit me with the force of a physical blow. In that moment, standing in our kitchen with steam still drifting from the bathroom, I felt the ground beneath me shift. Love, trust, relationship, all those words I'd used to describe what we had suddenly felt like lies I'd been telling myself. The evidence was right there in my trembling hands, a chat history that revealed deception so calculated it took my breath away. The shock froze me in place, my heartbreak crystallizing into something hard and sharp. In the silence of our apartment, I could hear my own breathing, ragged and uneven, as I scrolled through message after message, each one a fresh betrayal that shattered what remained of my truth. Michael and I had been together for 18 months. At 62, I thought I was done with romance, done with the messiness of opening my heart to someone new. My husband of 35 years had passed 4 years ago, and I'd made peace with the idea of spending my remaining years alone. Then, Michael walked into my book club meeting. He was the library coordinator, 48 years old, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He'd approached me after the discussion of the remains of the day, commenting on my observation about emotional repression and missed opportunities. "You speak like someone who understands regret," he'd said, not unkindly. "Doesn't everyone our age?" I'd replied. He'd laughed, a warm sound that made something in my chest loosen. "I suppose they do, but not everyone articulates it with such grace." We'd gone for coffee that evening. Just coffee, I'd told myself. 2 adults discussing literature and life. But coffee turned into dinner the following week, and dinner turned into long walks by the river, and before I knew it, I was doing something I'd never imagined. Falling in love again. Michael had a way of making me feel seen that I hadn't experienced in years. With my late husband, love had become comfortable, predictable, like a well-worn cardigan you reach for without thinking. With Michael, everything felt intentional. He remembered how I took my coffee, noticed when I'd had my hair done, asked about the books I was reading, not just to make conversation, but because he genuinely wanted to know my thoughts. "You have such a beautiful mind, Eleanor," he'd told me once, 3 months into our relationship. We were sitting on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. "I could listen to you talk about anything, grocery lists, tax forms, the weather, and find it fascinating." I'd laughed, embarrassed by the compliment. "You're ridiculous." "I'm serious." He'd taken my hand then, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I feel like I've been sleepwalking through life until I met you." The memory makes me nauseous now. I set his phone down on the counter, then pick it up again, unable to stop myself from returning to those messages. The contact saved as Mom had been texting him for months, while he was telling me he loved me, while he was planning our future together, while he was holding me at night and whispering promises into my hair. The messages themselves were affectionate, intimate, but not explicitly sexual. At least not in the parts I could see. Mom asked about his day, sent heart emojis, talked about missing him. Michael responded with equal warmth, calling her beautiful and my angel. The most recent exchange, from just this morning, made my skin crawl. Mom, are you still coming over Thursday? Michael, wouldn't miss it for the world. Mom, what about Eleanor? Michael, she has her pottery class. She'll never know. She'll never know. The casualness of it, the confidence that I was too trusting or too stupid to figure it out. I'd mentioned my pottery class to him just last night, excited about a new glazing technique we were learning. He'd smiled and kissed my forehead, told me he was proud of me for trying new things. The shower turned off. I heard the bathroom door open, Michael's feet padding across the bedroom floor. I had maybe 2 minutes before he came looking for his phone. 2 minutes to decide what to do with this knowledge that was burning through me like acid. I could pretend I hadn't seen anything. Put the phone back where I found it, smile when he walked into the kitchen, kiss him good morning like nothing had changed. Part of me wanted to do exactly that, to preserve the illusion a little longer, to live in the world where Michael loved me and only me, where Mom was just a misunderstanding I could explain away if I tried hard enough. But I couldn't unknow what I knew. Couldn't unfeel the humiliation that was spreading through my chest like spilled ink. I thought about all the times he'd mentioned his mother in conversation, the grief in his voice when he talked about losing her to cancer. Had that been real? Or was it all part of some elaborate performance? Honey? Michael's voice drifted from the bedroom. Have you seen my phone? I found my voice, surprised by how normal it sounded. It's in the kitchen. He appeared in the doorway, towel around his waist, hair still damp. God, he was handsome. Even now, even knowing what I knew, I could feel that familiar flutter in my stomach. It made me angry. At him, at myself, at my traitorous body that still responded to him. Thanks, babe. He crossed to the counter, picked up the phone. I watched his face carefully, looking for any sign that he knew I'd seen the messages. But his expression remained relaxed, open. He glanced at the screen, then slipped the phone into his pocket. I've got to run to the office for a few hours. Budget meeting. It was Saturday. He'd told me yesterday he had the whole weekend free. I thought we were going to the farmer's market, I said, testing. A flicker of something, annoyance, guilt, crossed his face. Oh, right. Sorry, this came up last minute. Rain check? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He walked over, cupped my face in his hands, kissed me softly. His lips were warm, familiar. I wanted to pull away. I wanted to lean in. I did neither, just stood there like a statue while he kissed me with the same mouth that called another woman his angel. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. The coffee maker gurgled and hissed, filling the room with its familiar morning smell, but I couldn't bring myself to pour a cup. Everything felt foreign now, contaminated by deception. Even the photos on my refrigerator, Michael and me at the botanical gardens, at my granddaughter's birthday party, at New Year's Eve, looked like evidence of my stupidity, rather than happy memories. I needed to know more. The glimpse I'd gotten of those messages wasn't enough. Who was this woman? How long had this been going on? Was she the only one? The questions circled my mind like vultures. each one picking at the carcass of my dignity. Michael had given me the password to his laptop months ago. He'd needed me to send an email for him while he was driving. I'd written it down in my notebook, the one where I kept grocery lists and phone numbers. My hands trembled as I retrieved it from the kitchen drawer. 1547 Monroe. His childhood address, he'd told me. Another lie? Or perhaps the only truth he'd ever shared. His laptop sat on the coffee table where he'd left it last night. We'd been watching a documentary about wildlife photography, curled up together on the couch. He'd run his fingers through my hair, and I'd felt so safe, so content. How could he compartmentalize like that? How could he be so tender with me while maintaining this secret life? The laptop opened to his email. I knew I was crossing a line, violating his privacy. But didn't he forfeit that right when he saved another woman's number under his dead mother's name? The rationalization came easily, fury making me bold. I searched for Mom in his contacts. Nothing. Then I remembered. The messages were on his phone, not his email. But there had to be something here, some trace of this deception. I opened his browser history, Netflix, news sites, work-related pages. Then, buried 3 days back, a reservation at Chez Laurent, the French restaurant downtown. For two. On Thursday night. Thursday, pottery class night. I kept digging. His credit card statements were saved in a folder labeled Finances. I'd never looked before. We'd maintained separate accounts, both of us valuing our independence. Now, I clicked through them with the determination of a detective. Flowers purchased 2 weeks ago. I'd never received flowers. A jewelry store charge from last month. I'd gotten nothing for my birthday, just a handmade card and dinner out. Hotel charges in the city, always on weekdays, always during times he'd said he was at conferences or late meetings. The pattern emerged like a photograph developing in solution. This wasn't new. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was systematic, calculated, ongoing. The scope of it made me dizzy. My phone rang. My daughter Sarah, calling for our Saturday morning check-in. I let it go to voicemail, knowing she'd hear something wrong in my voice. She'd been so happy when I'd told her about Michael. "Mom, you deserve this," she'd said. "Dad would want you to be happy." Would he? Would my late husband want me to be this kind of happy? The fool's paradise kind, built on quicksand and decorated with lies? I found myself thinking about Robert, my husband, more intensely than I had in months. We'd built our life on steady ground. No grand gestures, no breathless romance, just quiet, solid love that grew deeper with time. We'd raised 2 children, buried parents, weathered job losses and health scares. There had been no secrets between us, or at least none that mattered. Would I have spotted deception in him more easily? Or had I simply been lucky that he was who he appeared to be? The front door opened. My heart lurched. Michael couldn't be back already. It had only been an hour. But it was him, carrying a bouquet of peonies, my favorite flowers. "Meeting got cancelled," he said, smiling. "I felt bad about the farmer's market, so I stopped by that flower stand you like." The peonies were beautiful, coral pink with edges that faded to white. Last week, I would have been touched by the gesture. Now, I wondered who else had received flowers. How many other women thought they were special to him? "Thank you," I managed, taking the bouquet. "I'll put these in water." He followed me to the kitchen, chatting about something. A co-worker's drama, I think. I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about the laptop, still open on the coffee table, displaying his credit card statements. Had I closed that window? I couldn't remember. "You okay?" Michael asked, and I realized he'd asked me a question I hadn't heard. "Just tired," I said. "Didn't sleep well. Why don't you go lie down? I'll make lunch." "I'm fine." He moved behind me as I arranged the flowers in a vase, wrapped his arms around my waist. I could smell his cologne, the one I'd bought him for Christmas. "I love you, Eleanor," he murmured against my neck. The words, which once would have warmed me from the inside out, now felt like shards of glass. How many times had he said them? To how many women? Did he tell Mom he loved her too? "I need to run to the store," I said, pulling away from his embrace. "I'll come with you." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. I need some time to myself, to think. He studied my face, and for the first time since I'd found the messages, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. "Is everything okay? Did I do something?" The question was so absurd, I almost laughed. "Did you do something? You created an elaborate fiction, saved your mistress under your dead mother's name, lied to me every single day for God knows how long." But I just shook my head. "I just need some air." I grabbed my purse and keys, not trusting myself to look at him. As I reached the door, I heard him call out, "Eleanor?" But I didn't stop. I couldn't. One more second in that apartment, and I would either scream or crumble, and I wasn't ready for either. I drove without destination, muscle memory taking me through familiar streets. The city looked different now, like I was seeing it through warped glass. Every couple I passed seemed suspect. Was that man lying to that woman? Did she know? Was everyone walking around in their own elaborate deceptions? Or was I just uniquely stupid? I ended up at the cemetery without conscious intention. Robert's grave was in the eastern section, under an oak tree we'd picked out together when we'd pre-purchased our plots. Morbid, our kids had said. But we'd found comfort in the planning, in knowing we'd be together even after death. The headstone was simple granite. Robert James Patterson, beloved husband, father, friend. I sat on the bench nearby, the one the kids had donated in his memory. "I met someone," I said to the stone, to the air, to whatever remained of Robert in this place. "I think you'd hate him." A bird landed on top of the headstone, a cardinal. Robert's mother had always said cardinals were visits from the deceased. Superstition. But right now, I wanted to believe it. I'm 62 years old, and I fell for the oldest trick in the book. Another woman. Can you believe it? After everything we went through with Tom and his affairs. Tom was Robert's brother, whose serial infidelity had destroyed his marriage and fractured the family. We'd watched it unfold, sworn we'd never let secrets poison our own relationship. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Where did you go?" Getting worried. Worried. About what? That I'd discovered his deception? That his carefully constructed house of cards was about to collapse? I deleted the message without responding. Another buzz, this time from Sarah. "Mom, you didn't answer. Everything okay?" I texted her back, "Fine, honey. Just busy. Talk tomorrow." The lie came so easily. Maybe Michael and I were more alike than I'd thought. Maybe everyone was capable of deception when the truth was too complicated or too painful to share. I stayed at the cemetery until the afternoon sun started to slant through the trees. 3 more texts from Michael, each one more concerned than the last. I finally sent back. Running errands, be home later. Let him wonder. Let him feel a fraction of the uncertainty that was eating me alive. When I finally returned to the apartment, it was nearly 4 o'clock. Michael was on the couch with his laptop, and my heart stopped for a moment before I realized he was just working, not looking at the browser history I'd left open. He'd closed it without noticing, apparently. Or maybe he had noticed and was waiting to confront me about snooping. The not knowing made my skin crawl. "There you are," he said, setting the laptop aside. "I was about to call the hospitals." "Don't be dramatic. Eleanor, you disappeared for 4 hours without saying where you were going. That's not like you. Not like me." He was right. The old Eleanor would have left a detailed itinerary, would have answered every text promptly, would have considered his feelings above her own need for space. But the old Eleanor hadn't known about Mom. "I went to visit Robert's grave," I said, which was true but not complete. His face softened immediately. "Oh, honey, you should have told me. I would have gone with you. I needed to go alone." He nodded, understanding and patient. God, he was good at this. The perfect boyfriend act. How long had he been rehearsing these responses? This careful dance of emotional availability. "I made dinner," he said. "That pasta you like, with the lemon and capers." I could smell it. The garlic and olive oil, the bright citrus note. My stomach turned. "I'm not hungry. Eleanor." He stood, moved toward me. I stepped back instinctively, and hurt flashed across his face. "What's going on? Talk to me." Talk to him. As if communication was something we did. As if honesty was the foundation of what we had. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to throw his laptop at his head. I wanted to print out his credit card statements and paper the walls with them. Instead, I said, "I'm going to take a bath." I locked the bathroom door behind me, something I'd never done before. The tub filled slowly, steam fogging the mirror until my reflection disappeared. I sank into the water and tried to think clearly, rationally, like the woman I'd been before, finding those messages. Option 1, confront him directly. Show him I knew about Mom. Demand an explanation. But what explanation could possibly suffice? What words could undo this? Option 2, gather more evidence. Find out who this woman really was, how long this had been going on, whether there were others. Build an airtight case before revealing what I knew. Option 3, leave. Pack my things while he was at work. Disappear from his life without explanation. Let him wonder, the way he'd left me, wondering who he really was. Option 4, pretend. Continue the relationship as if nothing had happened, but with my eyes open now. Use him the way he'd been using me. For companionship, for the appearance of normalcy, for whatever this was worth to him. None of the options felt right. They all required me to become someone I wasn't. A detective, a victim, a player in whatever game this was. I just wanted to be Eleanor, who'd found unexpected love at 62, and had been grateful for it. A knock on the bathroom door. "Eleanor, it's been an hour. I'm worried about you." An hour. The water had gone cold without my noticing. "I'll be out in a minute," I called. I dried off, put on my robe, and opened the door to find him standing in the hallway, holding a cup of tea. My favorite, chamomile with honey. These small gestures of care, were they real or part of the performance? How was I supposed to tell the difference? "Thank you," I said, taking the cup. "Can we talk, please?" I followed him to the living room, sat in the chair across from the couch where he settled. The distance between us felt both too much and not enough. "I know something's wrong," he said. "You've been different all day. Did something happen at the cemetery? Did it bring up difficult memories?" The concern in his voice sounded so genuine. But then again, so had everything else. "Tell me about your mother," I said suddenly. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. "My mother? Why? You talk about missing her sometimes, but never any details. What was she like?" "She was—" He paused, and I watched him carefully. Was he remembering or constructing? "She was complicated. We had a difficult relationship." "Difficult how?" "Eleanor, where is this coming from?" "I'm just realizing how little I know about your past. We've been together 18 months, and I've never seen a photo of her. I don't have many. The fire—" He told me about a fire that had destroyed his childhood home, taking most of the family photos with it. Another convenient tragedy. "What was her name?" "Margaret. Margaret Ann." I filed that away. "And she died of cancer?" "Pancreatic. 3 years ago this December." December. I made a mental note to check if there was an obituary, a death certificate, any proof that Margaret Ann had existed and died when he said she did. The fact that I was planning to investigate my boyfriend's dead mother said everything about what we'd become. "Why all the questions?" he asked, and there was something in his tone now, a slight edge. "Can't I be curious about the man I love?" The word love felt like ash in my mouth, but his face relaxed at hearing it. "Of course, I'm sorry. It's just still painful to talk about." We sat in silence for a moment, sipping tea, two people pretending everything was normal. I thought about Thursday night, about him sitting across from Mom at Chez Laurent while I shaped clay into bowls that would hold nothing but disappointment. "I might extend my pottery class," I said casually. The instructor offered to do some Thursday evening sessions. Advanced techniques. I watched his face carefully. There, a flash of something. Relief? Excitement? It was gone too quickly to be sure. "That sounds great," he said. "You've really taken to it. I'd be gone every Thursday evening. Would you mind?" "Of course not. I want you to pursue your passions." Passions? Is that what he was doing with Mom? Pursuing his passions while I pursued pottery? My phone rang. Sarah again. This time I answered, needing the anchor of her voice. "Hi, sweetheart." "Mom, finally. I was getting worried. You never skip our Saturday call." "I'm sorry. It's been a strange day." Michael stood, mouthed, "I'll give you privacy," and headed to the bedroom. Always so considerate, always performing kindness. "Is everything okay?" Sarah asked. "You sound off." "I'm fine. Is Michael there?" "Yes." "Mom." She paused, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? If something's wrong, if you're having doubts." Doubts. Such a small word for what I was feeling. "I know, honey. I mean it. You don't have to protect me. I'm 40 years old." 40. When I was 40, I thought I knew everything about love, about trust, about reading people. 22 years later, I was learning I knew nothing. "Sarah, did you ever suspect your father of... Did you ever think he might be keeping secrets?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Mom, what's going on? Just answer me, please." "No," she said finally. "Dad was an open book. Sometimes I wished he had more mystery, to be honest. But that wasn't who he was." An open book. Yes, that was Robert. Every emotion on his face, every thought shared aloud. I'd found it annoying sometimes, his inability to keep anything to himself. Now, I'd give anything for that transparency. Why are you asking about Dad? Is this about Michael? I should go, I said. I'll call you tomorrow. Mom? I hung up, guilt adding another layer to the emotional sediment building inside me. Sarah would worry now, would probably call her brother, and they'd discuss whether Mom was okay, whether Michael was good for me, whether I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe I was. That night, Michael suggested we watch a movie. Something light, he said. A comedy. I agreed because the alternative was talking, and I couldn't trust what might come out of my mouth. We sat on the couch, not quite touching, the space between us feeling like a chasm. On screen, people fell in love through misunderstandings and miscommunications that resolved neatly in 90 minutes. If only. He fell asleep halfway through, his head tipping back, soft snores escaping. I studied his face in the television's blue glow. The lines around his eyes, the silver threading through his stubble, the small scar on his chin, he'd said, came from a childhood bike accident. What else about that story was fabricated? Was there even a bike? His phone sat on the coffee table, face down. All I had to do was reach for it, find those messages again, maybe discover more. But with him right there, the risk felt too great. Instead, I watched him sleep and wondered how many times he'd done this, dozed off beside me while maintaining a whole other life I knew nothing about. At 11, I woke him gently, suggested we go to bed. He murmured agreement, pulled me close as we walked to the bedroom. His hand on my lower back felt like a brand. In bed, he curled around me the way he always did, his arm draped over my waist, his breath warm against my neck. I love you, he whispered into the darkness, already half asleep again. I lay awake for hours, rigid in his embrace, counting his breaths, feeling the rise and fall of his chest against my back. Somewhere in the city, was Mom also lying awake, waiting for Thursday? Did she know about me? Was I the other woman in her story? Or was she as oblivious as I'd been? Sunday arrived gray and drizzling. Michael made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, the works, humming while he cooked. The domesticity of it felt surreal. I pushed eggs around my plate, managed a few bites of toast. I was thinking we could drive out to that antique market today, he said. You mentioned wanting to look for a mirror for the hallway. Had I? I couldn't remember. Everything before finding those messages felt like someone else's life, someone else's plans. It's raining, I said. We have umbrellas. I wanted to scream at him. Stop being so normal, so thoughtful, so perfectly yourself when I know you're anything but perfect. Instead, I said, I have a headache. I think I'll stay in today. Concern creased his forehead. You've been feeling off all weekend. Should we call the doctor? It's just a headache, Michael. He reached across the table, tried to take my hand. I pulled it back, pretending I needed to reach for my coffee. His hand hung there for a moment before retreating. I'll go to the pharmacy, he said. Get you something for the pain. I have ibuprofen. The stronger stuff. The kind that actually works. He was already standing, reaching for his jacket. This was Michael, solving problems, taking care of things, being the perfect partner. Except for the secret girlfriend, saved as his dead mother. After he left, I called Sarah back. Thank God, she answered immediately. I've been worried sick. I'm sorry about yesterday. Mom, talk to me. What's happening? I almost told her then. The words were right there, pressing against my teeth. I found messages. He's cheating. I'm a fool. but saying it out loud would make it real in a way that I wasn't ready for. "I think I'm just having a wobble," I said instead. "You know, overthinking things." "About Michael? About everything? Life? Choices? Getting older? You're 62, not 92. "I know, but—" I stopped, hearing a key in the lock. "He's back. I have to go." "Mom." I hung up as Michael walked in, pharmacy bag in hand. He'd bought 3 different types of pain relievers, a heating pad, and, absurdly, a candy bar he knew I liked. "I didn't know which would work best," he said, unpacking his purchases. "And chocolate helps everything, right?" The thoughtfulness of it made me want to cry. Or maybe it was the calculated performance of thoughtfulness. I couldn't tell anymore. "Thank you," I managed. He sat beside me, studied my face. "Eleanor, if something's wrong, if I've done something or if you're having second thoughts about us, please tell me. I can handle anything except losing you." The irony of that statement, him claiming he couldn't handle losing me while actively maintaining another relationship, should have been funny. It wasn't. "I need you to be honest with me about something," I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. "Anything. Are you happy? With us, I mean, with me. Eleanor." He looked genuinely shocked. "How can you even ask that? You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, maybe ever. Better than your first marriage?" He'd been married briefly in his 30s, no kids, an amicable divorce. There's no comparison. With Linda, it was young love, impulsive. We didn't really know each other. With you, it's real, mature, based on actually knowing and understanding each other. Knowing and understanding each other. The words felt like a slap. "Tell me what you love about me," I said suddenly. "Specifically." He looked puzzled but played along. "Your intelligence, the way you see through to the heart of things when you read. Your kindness, you remember every server's name at restaurants we go to regularly. Your hands when you're working with clay, so focused and careful. The sound of your laugh, especially when something really catches you off guard. The way you hum when you're cooking. How you always check that you've locked the door twice before bed. Your strength, losing Robert but choosing to keep living, really living, not just existing. He could have gone on, I could tell. The list was ready, detailed, observed. It would have melted me 2 days ago. Now I wondered if he had similar lists for other women, if attention to detail was part of his method. "Do you love me?" he asked, and there was vulnerability in his voice that sounded real. "I don't know anymore," I said, the first completely honest thing I'd said all weekend. His face went pale. "Eleanor, what happened? Friday morning everything was fine, and then... Did someone say something? Did your kids..." "No one said anything." "Then what? Help me understand." I wanted to say it then. "I saw your messages. I know about Mom. I know you're a liar. But I also wanted to know more before I played that card. Once it was out there, everything would change irrevocably." "I just need some space to think," I said. "Should I... Do you want me to go? Stay at my place for a few days?" He still kept his apartment, though he spent most nights here. Another red flag I'd ignored, thinking it was about maintaining independence. Now I wondered what else that apartment was used for. "Maybe that's best," I said. The hurt on his face looked genuine. Everything about him looked genuine. That was the problem. He packed a bag in silence while I sat on the bed, watching. The careful way he folded his shirts, the methodical gathering of toiletries. Even in this, He was precise, controlled. At the door, he paused. "I'll give you space, but Eleanor, please, don't give up on us without talking to me. Whatever's wrong, we can work through it. Can we? I believe we can. I love you. That's not going to change." After he left, I went through the apartment like a forensic investigator. I found a receipt in the trash from the jewelry store, dated last month. A pair of earrings, $300. I didn't own any new earrings. In the pocket of a jacket he'd left behind, a reservation card from a hotel downtown. The same hotel that had appeared on his credit card statements. But the thing that broke me was smaller, seemingly insignificant. In the bathroom, behind his shaving cream, I found a second toothbrush. Not his. He kept that in the medicine cabinet. This one was pink, still in its packaging, hidden like a secret. For Mom, presumably, for when she stayed over. When had he been planning to use it? Thursday, while I shaped clay into vessels that could hold nothing but lies? Monday morning arrived with bright sunshine that felt like mockery. I called in sick to work. I volunteered at the library 3 days a week, helping with adult literacy programs. Margaret, my supervisor, sounded concerned. "This is so unlike you, Eleanor. You haven't missed a day in 2 years." "Just a bug," I lied. "I'll be back Wednesday." "Feel better, dear." I spent the morning on my laptop, searching for Margaret Ann, who should have died of pancreatic cancer 3 years ago in December. I found 4 obituaries for Margaret Ann's who died that month, but none with Michael's last name. None from pancreatic cancer. Of course, she could have had a different last name, could have died in another state, could have been cremated without an obituary. The absence of proof wasn't proof of absence. But I kept searching. Around noon, I did something I'd sworn I wouldn't. I drove to Michael's apartment building. I needed to see if Mom was there, if Thursday was just their regular day, or if she was a constant presence when he wasn't with me. I parked across the street, felt ridiculous and desperate. A 62-year-old woman stalking her boyfriend like a teenager. His car wasn't there. He'd be at work. But as I sat watching, a woman emerged from his building. Blonde, maybe 45, attractive in an effortless way that suggested money and good genes. She walked to a silver BMW, and my heart stopped. Was this her? Was this Mom? I took a photo with my phone, zooming in on her face. Then I felt sick. What was I doing? Even if this was the woman, what would I do with this information? Confront her? Follow her? I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone driven by hurt and humiliation to act like a character in a bad detective novel. I drove home, deleted the photo, then retrieved it from the trash. Deleted it again, retrieved it again. This cycle of decisive action and immediate regret was exhausting. Michael texted around 2. "Thinking of you. I hope you're okay." I didn't respond. At 3, another text. "I love you, Eleanor. Whatever's happening, please remember that." I turned my phone off. That evening, unable to stand my own company anymore, I went to pottery class. It wasn't Thursday. That was still 3 days away. But the studio had open hours. I needed my hands busy, needed to create something tangible in a world that suddenly felt like smoke. Diane was there, a woman I'd become friendly with over the past few months. She looked up from her wheel as I entered. "Eleanor, I thought you only came Thursdays." "Needed extra practice," I said, settling at an empty wheel. We worked in companionable silence for a while. The clay was cooperative today, centering easily, rising into a tall cylinder under my guidance. I was forming the neck of what might become a vase when Diane spoke again. "Can I ask you something personal?" I looked up, hands still on the wet clay. "Sure." "How did you know your husband was the one? Your late husband, I mean." The question caught me off guard. "Why do you ask?" "I'm seeing someone new. First time since my divorce. And I'm terrified I'm missing red flags, you know? Like I did the first time. Red flags. If only they were actually red, actually flags, obvious and waving." "I don't know that I did know," I said slowly, thinking about Robert. "We just fit. No drama, no uncertainty. It was easy." "Easy," Diane repeated. "That sounds nice. What about your new person? Is it easy?" She laughed, but there was something sad in it. "Nothing about him is easy. He's complicated, mysterious. Exciting, I guess. But sometimes I catch him in these little lies. Nothing major, just inconsistencies. And I wonder if I'm being paranoid, or if my gut is trying to tell me something." My hands had stilled on the clay. The vase was collapsing slightly, losing its shape. "Listen to your gut," I said. "It's usually right." "Is it? Or is it just fear talking? How do you tell the difference?" I didn't have an answer for that. My gut had been silent about Michael until I'd seen those messages. Or had it? Were there signs I'd ignored? Warnings I'd explained away because I wanted so badly for it to be real? "I found something," I said suddenly, surprising myself. "On Michael's phone. Messages to another woman." Diane's wheel stopped spinning. "Oh, Eleanor, I'm so sorry. I haven't confronted him yet. I don't know what to do." "What do you want to do?" "I want to wake up and find out this was all a nightmare. I want to go back to Friday morning before I knew. I want to feel like myself again instead of this person who goes through his trash and stalks his apartment building." The clay on my wheel was ruined now, collapsed into an unrecognizable mass. I scraped it off, started over with fresh clay. "My ex-husband cheated," Diane said quietly. "Multiple times, it turned out. The thing that hurt most wasn't even the sex. It was the lying, looking me in the eye every day and lying. It made me question everything, not just our marriage, but my own judgment. How could I not have known? How did you find out?" "He told me. Can you believe that? Came home one day and confessed everything. Said he couldn't live with the guilt anymore. As if his guilt was my problem to solve." "What did you do?" "Tried to make it work. Counseling, the whole thing. But I could never look at him the same way. Every time he was 5 minutes late, every time his phone buzzed, every time he smiled at a waitress. The trust was gone, and without it, we had nothing. I thought about Michael's smile, his laugh, his hands on my skin. Could I ever experience those things again without wondering what was real?" "The woman," Diane continued, "or women in my case, they weren't even special. That was almost the worst part. He threw away our marriage for people he barely knew, for excitement, for ego, for whatever itch he needed to scratch." The fresh clay was centering beautifully, as if in apology for the previous failure. I pulled it up slowly, feeling the walls form between my fingers. "I should confront him," I said. "I know I should. But once I do—" "Everything changes," Diane finished. "Everything's already changed. I just haven't admitted it yet." We worked until the studio closed at 9. I'd made 3 pieces, a vase, a bowl, and something that might become a pitcher. They'd need to dry, then be fired, then glazed, then fired again. So many steps between raw clay and finished piece. So many opportunities for cracks to form, for the whole thing to shatter. When I got home, there was a package outside my door. No delivery label, just my name written in Michael's handwriting. Inside, a book, a first edition of a poetry collection I'd mentioned wanting months ago. The inscription read, "For Eleanor, who makes every ordinary moment poetry. All my love, M." The book was beautiful, must have cost a fortune to track down. I held it like evidence, though of what I wasn't sure. His capacity for thoughtfulness, his guilt, his ability to maintain multiple realities simultaneously. I put the book on my shelf, between other volumes, where it looked like it belonged. Another perfect thing in my apartment, like Michael himself had seemed to belong. But books could be closed, put away, left to gather dust. People were messier. My phone had 17 missed calls from Michael, 5 from Sarah, 1 from my son David. I turned it back off without listening to the voicemails. Tomorrow, I'd have to deal with them, with everything. But tonight, I just wanted to sit with my truth, ugly as it was. I was in love with someone who didn't exist. The Michael I knew was a character, carefully crafted and performed. The real Michael was someone who saved his girlfriend's number as Mom, who made reservations for 2 on my pottery nights, who kept a pink toothbrush hidden in my bathroom, like a promise of betrayal. I picked up the receipt from the jewelry store again, the one I'd found in the trash. $300 for earrings I'd never see. Then I noticed something I'd missed before. The receipt was from a location across town, not the branch near his apartment or work. Why go so far out of the way, unless you didn't want to risk being seen by someone who might know you, or know your real girlfriend? The receipt had the last 4 digits of his credit card. I went back to his laptop history from Saturday. The password still worked, thank God. The credit card statements were still there, and now I knew what to look for. That same card, those same 4 digits, appeared again and again. Restaurant charges at places he'd never taken me. Hotel stays in the city when he was supposedly at his apartment. A weekend at a bed and breakfast in Vermont last month when he'd said he was at a work conference in Boston. Vermont. He'd come back from that conference talking about boring PowerPoints and tedious networking. He'd even brought me a silly souvenir from the Boston airport. But he'd been in Vermont with her, playing out some romantic weekend while I waited at home like the trusting fool I was. Tuesday crawled by in a haze of avoided phone calls and obsessive searching. I'd become an investigator of my own life, piecing together the truth from credit card records and reservation confirmations. The bed and breakfast in Vermont had a website with photos, romantic rooms with 4-poster beds, couples massage packages, wine tastings at sunset. I tortured myself imagining Michael there with Mom, whoever she was. By Wednesday, I couldn't avoid the world any longer. I went to work at the library, helped adults learn to read, pretended my life wasn't falling apart. During my lunch break, Margaret found me in the break room. "You look terrible, Eleanor. Are you sure you should be here?" "I'm fine." She sat down across from me, her face serious. "I've known you for 5 years. You're not fine. Is it Michael?" I must have flinched because she nodded knowingly. "Men," she said, though it sounded more tired than bitter. "Even the good ones disappoint you eventually. Did you think he was one of the good ones?" She considered this. He seemed attentive, maybe too attentive, if that makes sense. Like he was performing the role of perfect boyfriend. Performing. Yes, that was exactly it. "You noticed that?" "I was married to an actor for 10 years. I recognize a performance when I see one. After work, I sat in my car for a long time, gathering courage. Tomorrow was Thursday, pottery class night. The night Michael had plans with Mom. I had to confront him before then, had to stop this charade before he spent another evening with her while I shaped clay into metaphors for my broken trust. I drove to his apartment. His car was there. My hands shook as I climbed the stairs to his floor. I still had a key. He'd given it to me months ago, insisted I have it for emergencies. This felt like an emergency. I knocked first, waited, knocked again. "Michael? It's me." No answer, but I could hear movement inside, quick footsteps, a door closing. My heart hammered as I used my key. He was in the living room, alone, looking flustered. His shirt was untucked, his hair mussed. "Eleanor, I didn't expect. You haven't been answering your phone." I looked around the apartment. Everything appeared normal, but there was something in the air. Perfume that wasn't mine. "Is someone here?" "What? No, of course not." I walked past him toward the bedroom. He grabbed my arm gently. "Eleanor, wait. Let me explain." "Explain what?" "I know you're upset. I know something's wrong. But this isn't..." I pulled away, opened the bedroom door. The bed was made, the room empty. But the bathroom door was closed, and I could see light underneath. "Who's in there?" "Eleanor, please. It's not what you think." I almost laughed. It's not what you think. The classic line of every cheater caught in the act. I walked to the bathroom door, my hand on the knob. "Don't," Michael said, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Desperation. Fear. I opened the door. A woman sat on the edge of the bathtub. Not the blonde I'd photographed, someone else entirely. Older, maybe late 50s, with dark hair streaked with grey. She looked terrified. "Hello?" I said, ridiculously polite, even in this moment. She stood slowly. "You must be Eleanor." "And you are?" She looked at Michael, who had appeared in the doorway behind me. His face was ashen. "I'm Patricia," she said. "His wife." The word hit me like a physical blow. Wife, not ex-wife. Wife. "You're divorced," I said to Michael, though it came out as a question. "No," Patricia said quietly. "We're not." The room tilted. I gripped the doorframe to stay upright. "You told me you were divorced. You said Linda, brief marriage, amicable divorce." "Linda was real," Patricia said, and there was something almost pitying in her tone. "His first wife. They divorced 20 years ago. We've been married for 12 years. 12 years? 12 years. But you're saved as Mom in his phone," I said stupidly, as if this was the important detail. Patricia's face darkened. "What?" Michael stepped forward. "Eleanor, let me..." "Mom?" Patricia's voice rose. "You saved someone as Mom? Who else is there, Michael? How many of us are there?" "Us. We were an us. Multiple women, all being deceived." "There's no one else," Michael said, but his voice lacked conviction. "The messages," I said to Patricia. "Thursday nights. The restaurant reservation." "Thursday is when I visit my mother," Patricia said slowly. "In the nursing home. Every Thursday for the past 2 years." We stared at each other, two women beginning to understand the scope of what we were dealing with. "The conference in Boston last month," I said. "He was supposedly at his brother's," Patricia replied. "The jewelry store receipt." "My birthday earrings. But my birthday was 2 months ago." "The weekend shifts at work. The golf tournaments." We were comparing notes like students after an exam, each revelation another piece of the puzzle. Michael stood between us, shrinking with every word. "How did you know I was here?" I asked Patricia. "I didn't. I came home early from work. Wanted to surprise him." She laughed bitterly. "Surprise? Home? This is your apartment?" "Our apartment. Though apparently it's been yours too." I thought about all the nights I'd spent here, the mornings making coffee, in what I thought was Michael's kitchen, the evenings on what was actually their couch, the clothes in the closet. Were some of them hers? Had I been sleeping in her bed? "Eleanor," Michael started. "Don't," I said. "Just don't." "Who else is there?" Patricia asked him. "Who's saved as Mom?" Michael's silence was answer enough. Patricia pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the screen. "I'm calling Diana, and Rachel, and—" She looked up at him. "Jesus Christ, Michael. How many?" "Diana, Rachel. Names to go with the restaurant charges, the hotel stays, the elaborate architecture of deception." "I should go," I said. "No," Patricia said firmly. "Stay. We need to know the full truth." "I know enough." I walked past Michael without looking at him, through the apartment that had never been his alone, down the stairs I'd climbed so many times thinking I was welcome. In my car, I realized I was still holding his apartment key. I threw it out the window. At home, I found the book he'd left, the first edition poetry, and opened it to a random page. The poem was about transformation, about becoming someone new through love. The irony was perfect. I had transformed, from a woman who trusted to one who didn't, from someone who believed in second chances to someone who knew better. My phone rang. Michael. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Eleanor, I'm so sorry. It's not what it seems. Patricia and I have been over for years. We just stayed married for tax reasons, for insurance. And the others, they didn't mean anything. You're the only one I really love. Please, let me explain. Please. Tax reasons, insurance, the mundane excuses for extraordinary betrayal." I deleted the message, then saw another from Patricia. "I'm sorry you were caught up in this. If you want to talk, I'm here. We're all in this together, it seems. We're all in this together. The unexpected sisterhood of the deceived." Thursday came anyway, despite everything. I went to pottery class, because I didn't know what else to do. The clay was waiting, indifferent to heartbreak. I centered it, pulled it up, shaped it into a vessel that could hold something, anything, other than lies. "You came," Diane said, surprised. "I thought maybe—" "He had other plans tonight," I said. "Oh, Eleanor, it's fine. I'm fine." I wasn't fine, but I was upright. I was breathing. I was making something with my hands that wouldn't betray me. The clay might crack in the kiln, the glaze might run, but it would never pretend to be something it wasn't. It would never save another pot under a false name in its phone. After class, I had a voicemail from Sarah. "Mom, Michael called David. He says you've had a misunderstanding. What's going on? Call me." A misunderstanding? Is that what we were calling it? I texted her. "No misunderstanding. He's married. Has been all along. I'm okay." My phone rang immediately, but I didn't answer. I wasn't ready for sympathy, for anger on my behalf, for the careful kindness of people who loved me. Tomorrow, maybe. Tonight, I just wanted to sit with the truth. I thought about the receipt again, the one from the jewelry store that had started my real investigation. I'd found it in the trash, crumpled but not torn, discarded but not destroyed. Evidence he'd thrown away carelessly, the way he'd thrown away multiple women's trust. But then I remembered. I'd kept the receipt, smoothed it out, saved it like proof of something that mattered. It was still in my purse, a small piece of paper that had changed everything. Evidence not just of his deception, but of my refusal to be deceived any longer. I pulled it out now, looked at the date again. The earrings had been purchased the day after I'd told Michael I loved him for the first time. He'd gone from my declaration of love to buying jewelry for another woman, or multiple women, without missing a beat. The casualness of it, the ease with which he moved between lives, between loves, was almost impressive. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Diana. Patricia gave me your number. Would you like to meet for coffee tomorrow? There are things you should know. Things I should know, as if I didn't know enough already." But I texted back, "Yes." Because maybe that was the only way through this. Together, all of us, comparing notes and scars, understanding the full scope of what Michael had built and what we'd unknowingly been part of. A strange club no one wanted to join, bound by the fiction of one man's love. I looked at the poetry book one more time, at Michael's inscription, "For Eleanor, who makes every ordinary moment poetry." Even that was probably recycled, words he'd written in other books for other women. Nothing was singular. Nothing was special. Nothing was mine alone. But maybe that was freedom too. Freedom from thinking I'd lost something irreplaceable. What I'd lost had never existed. The Michael I'd loved was a ghost, a character, a poem written in disappearing ink. Tomorrow I'd meet Diana, maybe Rachel too, maybe others whose names I didn't yet know. We'd sit across from each other with our coffee and our shared humiliation and piece together the truth. But tonight, I sat alone with the poetry book and the receipt and the knowledge that I'd survived this discovery, this unraveling, this brutal education in the difference between what seems to be and what is. The receipt was crumpled again from being in my purse. I smoothed it out one more time on my kitchen table, this small document that had revealed everything. Such a little thing to carry such weight, to change a life so completely. But then, the biggest betrayals often hide in the smallest details. A saved contact, a misplaced receipt, a pink toothbrush waiting to be used. I thought about Michael, probably at home with Patricia now, maybe trying to explain the unexplainable, maybe packing his things, maybe calling the other women to do damage control, or maybe he was with Mom, whoever she was, carrying on as if nothing had happened, as if his carefully constructed world wasn't collapsing. It didn't matter. None of it mattered anymore. What mattered was that I knew the truth now. I'd been played for a fool, yes, but I wasn't a fool for believing in love at 62. I was just a woman who'd trusted the wrong man, who'd been performed for so excellently that I'd believed the show was real life. The poetry book would stay on my shelf, not as a reminder of heartbreak, but as evidence of my capacity to love fully, even when that love was aimed at an illusion. The receipt I'd keep too, tucked in the pages like a bookmark, marking the spot where one chapter ended and another began. Tomorrow would bring coffee with strangers who weren't really strangers, bound as we were by Michael's elaborate fiction. We'd probably laugh eventually at the audacity of it all, at our own blindness, at the idea that he thought he could keep spinning all these plates forever, without any of them crashing down. But tonight, I sat in my kitchen, where just days ago he'd kissed me goodbye, where he'd made me tea, where he'd said he loved me with such conviction I'd never thought to doubt it. The space felt different now, not emptier, but clearer, like seeing a room in daylight after only knowing it by lamplight. Everything was sharper, more defined, more real. I was 62 years old, and I'd been fooled by a man who saved his women under false names and built love on foundations of sand. But I was also 62 years old, and still standing, still breathing, still capable of making something beautiful from clay that would outlast any lie he'd told. That was enough for tonight. Tomorrow, I'd figure out the rest. Thank you for listening to my story. Sometimes the most important discoveries are the ones we never wanted to make.